right, let's try out vibe programming to create a bunch of AWS platform services. I have a perfect use case where I ran up the bill by leaving a Trainium instance on for a few days. I want to avoid this by creating these platform services whose job it is to monitor the cost on a daily basis per resource, store that in a DynamoDB database, as well as notify me if they exceeded the threshold. How? Without writing any code, by describing the architecture and the functionality. Here is the description in prompt. So let's run through this interactively. I'm going to speed through this, but leave the full video on YouTube. Okay, the first thing to do is to create a brand new directory, AWS Bill Alert, and then cd to AWS Bill Alert, ls-la. There's nothing there. So now let's go into Amazon Q chat. So this is an interactive mechanism to have a conversation with the AI. So you could see that he is talking to Claude for Sonnet. So the first prompt I'm going to put is I'm going to get him started and talk through this. Using the CLI, create a DynamoDB table called daily resource cost with the cost date and resource name as a primary key. Can you store this command in a shell script? So he did all that and he's asking me, do I trust him to execute? Let's say I trust him. And while he's thinking about that, the DynamoDB is created and he's going to save this command in a file as we asked. The next thing to do is I'm going to tell him I already have a SNS queue, use that. And then I also want you to create a Lambda function that's going to pull all the costs incurred for yesterday and then insert or update, if I happen to rerun it again, the resource in the table. Let's see, so I'm going to put this in while he's thinking about it. If the total cost is over $1, publish this information to the notify Muthu SNS queue. This should be stored in this file. So there he is, he's creating a Python function. If a single resource exceeds $1, he will notify me for a given day. And while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and talk about this one. Please create an event bridge to trigger the Lambda function at 8 a.m. Eastern daily. Can you store this in this shell script? We're going to trust him. So he's going to create that file and he's going to create the function. There he goes. Important note, the function uses put item, which will overwrite the existing record, which was an important requirement. So he did all that. So third is to trigger this daily at 8 a.m. And so he's thinking through that. Fourth is to, can you create a test file so we can run it interactively to see if this thing works. So let him go through this. This is taking a few seconds, which is a lot faster than what I could do. So this is interesting. You could see it's 1300 UTC, which is translated to 8 a.m. Eastern. So the details are being kept. So now I'm going to ask him to provide the test script. The last thing, here's the IAM. We're going to ask him to create a IAM role called daily resource cost and attach policies to access each of our other platform services and store this in the IAM policy shell script. So he's thinking about it. Okay, then the next thing is to create the policies. We also need to be able to deploy them in proper sequence. As you know, this is very delicate in terms of the layering. You can't run these things without policies in place. So this is going to take it a couple more seconds. So there we go. So he created the policy.sh, and then now he is providing the appropriate context policies accesses instead of wide open policy, which is what we typically do. Now, can we create a deploy sh that deploys the whole thing? Now I have to tell you, he's been interactively executing these things to create them, as well as now created this as a standalone deployment capability. So now let's see what happens when we run it. We'll give him a second to finish creating the deploy.sh. And while we're at it, let's ask him to document this too. So he's doing a comprehensive deployment script like we asked, and we'll go back through and see what those are in there. Um, while he's doing this, this is what I'm going to ask him. Great. Can you create? So while we're at it, let's ask him to create a documentation and an installation MD. So we know what all he did, and obviously he did all of this, so he should know what this is about. Um, so while he's doing that, what I want to do is open this up in the editor to see what all do we have. AWS billing, this is what we just created, so I'm going to open that up, and we could see we have check daily cost Python. This environment is not set up locally, but let's not worry about that. Um, so here's a Lambda handler. So he is getting Cost Explorer, DynamoDB, SNS, and he's going through this. And let's see if we can find the dollar threshold. So here's the total cost. So there's a dollar threshold that he's paying attention to. And here's all the policy requirements that are in there actually. And let's look at the deployment shell script. You could see that he is checking prerequisites. He is running through, and I won't go through this in detail, but he's running through to deploy the whole thing, IAM policy, SH. So he's creating the role and he's assigning policies to it. Test event, and then here's the event bridge. Okay, and then we also are looking for two documents. So there you go. He is now, he's created installation.md and readme.md. So we have our application documented and we have our application's installation script written up. So now let's see how he works. All right, so I went ahead and created a venv environment using UV and do the pip install of requirements, but let's go ahead and deploy it. So he's going to deploy the whole application. And recall, interactively, he created some of these. The thing he didn't do is deploy the thing he did not do is deploy the Lambda function. Where's my redraw? Control R. So he's still deploying that. Meanwhile, if we come to a list of tables, um, so we have our DynamoDB table. Um, we need our, and while we're at it, we can also see if we got our event bridge. Um, so here we go. We have our event bridge set up. So we need our Lambda function. Oh, I think we got it. There it is, beautiful, and it's zipped up and sent up there 45 seconds ago. So all that's done, it's amazing. So let's see if our test function works. Okay, so we didn't see any error messages. I think the proof is going to be when we go to the tables and find this and then explore. There it is for yesterday, all of our costing. Amazing. Oh my goodness, it actually works. He actually created all of those components. He created additional things, including requirements.txt, readme.md, installation.md, and other work we didn't specify. For example, Python file, py file needed to be zipped up and uploaded. He did all that, and it actually worked on the first try.